This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't.
Welcome everyone to episode number 8 of my All Tanks 0 to Keystone Hero challenge. We're continuing our focus on the DK because we are so close to reaching our goal with the first tank. Also, some news has hit the world of Warcraft. The launch of the new patch 10.2 is on the 7th of November. This is exciting, but also kind of puts a fire under my ass since I obviously want to finish this challenge on all tanks before the next season hits. I might put more of a focus on just playing and recording my runs over the editing and uploading of the videos to kind of just grind it out. But we'll see how I'm doing after the reset on the 25th of October has taken place, since I'll have one more fortified and one more tyrannical week after. With that little update out of the way, let's dive into these runs on Fortified Bolstering Week. So we start out strong with an 18 freehold, and when I say we start out strong, I'm talking about the content of this run, not about how smooth the run was. Bolstering Fortified in this first pull means the absolute prior target should be the Enforcer, because if they get their AoE off while bolstered, it's most likely gonna kill people. In terms of my own survival, I feel pretty safe here, because I have all my buttons to press, because well, the run has just only started, right? But since the Enforcer wasn't focused, and in fact the last mob standing in this pool, it gets a shout off with 5 bolster stacks, killing the healer and almost killing the mage. The next problematic pool is this one, where it's not 1 but 2 enforcers that are present. I mark one in the hopes it gets focused down, but yeah, that's not gonna happen. The enforcer actually kind of wombo combo the group, in fact. First the AoE shout, and then the frontal that no one dodges, killing 2 people. Then on the way back, the evoker dies again, presumably due to the patrol. The mage dies before the healer gets back, and we have 5 deaths before starting the first boss. On the first boss, the mage gets run over by the parrot, and a bit later these guys perfectly line up to all get hit by the powder shot. But actually luck out, because the boss doesn't cast it on any of them but on me. We finish this fight and can move on. After the bridge, I make an attempt to skip these mobs, but we do get in combat with them. The rat patrol is close and also gets pulled. Mage gets stuck in a trap and dies. Then they're back, get stuck in a trap and proc their cheat death. Meanwhile, the hunter also gets trapped and they do die. We have a couple of good pulls, then the hunter decides to pop lust on this 4-pack and then runs straight into the crusher and gets 1 tapped. I mark the crusher because it's obviously a prior target now, but that does not get focused on. He gets dealt with though. I have to kite a bit here and there, but eventually we're able to start the second boss fight. We lose the evoker due to the grape shot. They get B-resed. Luckily the rest of the fight goes well and we can move on without any kind of issue. I underestimate just how much damage this pack will actually deal, plus I don't refresh my bone shield and actually proc my cheat death. After this everything stabilizes though and we can move on to the ring. Here's where we lose the healer because the crusher's AoE circle just doesn't show up since they're standing on a ledge. I love World of Warcraft and everything related to the Z-axis, it's amazing. Great game, yes, very much so. I noticed it just in time, so I didn't get hit, but this isn't anyone's fault but Bliss, to be honest. Then, when pulling Ludwig, the healer just kind of falls over and dies. They're not outside the circle because they're literally right behind me, but they just disappear. I don't know. If someone knows what happened here, let me know because I am kind of lost. Healer then dies again when running inside the ring, but then they get B-rest. The rest of the fight goes well and Trothak also doesn't give us any problems. So we have about 5 minutes to clear the last area and last boss, which is kind of a tight timer. The first pull here, everything goes well initially, but when the officer patrol is added, I have to focus both on aggro as well as my survival. I get aggro, but do proc my cheat because that's the one thing I wasn't focusing on. I should have popped IBF immediately instead of just waiting though. The rest of the pull, as well as the pull before the last boss, go well, and we have just under 3 minutes to kill Harlan Sweet. It's for the fight, so I didn't expect the fight to last particularly long, and thankfully everyone plays the fight well. We also didn't have any A-bomb limb related accidents like last time, considering a certain ad holding a bomb. So we time the key with 32 seconds remaining and get a nice bit of score for it. After a very rough and tight freehold, we hop into a very fast and chill Halls 18. We're making real good time in the first half of the dungeon. We experience the first couple of problems, unsurprisingly, at the third boss. Shami gets nuked by the frontal, uses reincarnation to rejoin the fight. Then the warlock just doesn't move out of the glacial surge and takes the full hit. They then get B-rest. And since it's fortified, the fight ends quickly, so we can move on without any other kinds of shenanigans on this fight. The gauntlet doesn't pose a problem, but the mini-boss has a sick combo in store for us. We have a wave on one side and then the big AoE swirly around the mini-boss on the other. People are too slow to get out of it. Shami instantly dies. The warlock and priest get yeeted in opposite directions and they both land in different waves, which kills both of them. I have never seen that before. Shami says it best. He just types bro. The monk keeps himself alive for a little bit, but eventually does die as well. The group rejoins me right when the mini-boss is basically dead. Despite all of this, we are still very chill on time and only have the last boss to worry about. This fight goes well right up until the very end, where the healer almost gives me a heart attack. As a tank, you always get pushed back once per phase, and it's your job to then taunt the boss and get back in melee ASAP. The priest had good intentions by trying to grip me back quickly, but gripped me in a swirly that killed them and then also procced my cheat. All does end well though, because the boss dies soon after, and we do end up +2ing the key, but that was a very intense moment all of a sudden. We gain a good bit of score. I now only just need over 100 score to get to 2.5k, and we still have a decent amount of dungeons to do. Next stop, a +18 Underrot. We lose the DK in the first pull, but overall manage well still. We then make our way to the first boss, where our dragon friend gets hit by the AoE the boss casts sometimes. Quick B-res fixes that though, and the rest of the fight poses no problem. Clearing the Kragma room is easy, and just like the last couple of times, we're in a position where we clear trash on our way to the third boss to get our lust off cooldown again. I actually proc my cheat here. I should have used Lichborn and also a tombstone to get the CDR and dancing room weapon here. That would have probably saved me. Then after the double Defiler pull, we loop back to Kragma, wait a bit for Lust, and the Evoker pressed Lust too early. It's fortified though, and everyone definitely knew what they were doing, so this fight doesn't actually give us any problems. It's just kind of funny how we made the effort of trying to line up Lust, and then it ended up all being for nothing. We lose the DK on the first boss when they're trying to soak the remaining shrooms, but a B-res fixes that quickly. There's no issues on the second set of shrooms, and the boss dies under 2 minutes. The next set of trash packs offer no problems except for the very last one, where the DH takes the frontal to the face, and all of us are just a tad bit too late to stop the first tick of Dark Echoes from going through. DH runs back, and we move on to the last boss. And then the big question, does the last boss fight get messy? No, actually, we don't lose anyone, we don't have any troll baits, and get through the whole thing cleanly. A +2 key and another solid chunk of score. Our next destination is Neltheris, an 18. I proc my cheat on the first pull. You know how it is. I had some buttons to press, but didn't, and I paid for it. 1 or 2 pulls later, the DK gets sniped by the swirly. The rest of this area, as well as the first boss, do go well. Since I didn't want a bolstered mini-boss here, I played it safe and waited till it was dead before doing the bigger chain pull in this room. Sadly, it would seem, no one uses their chains. Only 2 people used theirs on the last pull, and I was a bit too busy trying to stay alive to grab a chain and pop it, so we basically end up fighting this pull as if the chains weren't there. We lose the DK in the process as well, but either way, we eventually do move on through. The second boss is defeated swiftly and easily since it's fortified, and it only takes just over a minute and a half as well, so we're cruising. The pull after though, due to aggro issues, I'm focused on saving someone else from dying, which leads to me proccing my cheat again because I'm not focused on staying alive myself. Thank you, cheat death. Then for the bigger chain pull here, I just get destroyed in an attempt to get the pull together. I think I'm too bare-brained for this kind of stuff still, because it's way easier to just live with a bark skin on you than pop a heal if needed, thrash for insta-threat, as well as the rage for an Irefer or 2. It's a whole lot simpler, which makes it so I'm a bit too gung-ho with it all, I think. Regardless though, we get through this pull on the second attempt. After this oopsie, we get to the Forge Master at a solid pace. We lose the DK to a swirly in the fight, but we have a B-res, so it's all fine. This boss died in 1 minute and 10 seconds. Damn. On the first bird pool, the shaman gets one shot. I think it's because he's apparently just about still in the frontal here. It's hard to see, and either way it seems very, very close. I think this is very unlucky, if you ask me. Then, I don't have a lot of buttons to press here for this double pull, and once again my cheat death procs here. It procs basically the second after my rune weapon falls off, which is a big sigh. The bird AoE is bolstered and kills the Shami here, but we get through this fight eventually. Now, we have 2 minutes and 7 seconds for the +2 timer. Do we make it? It's fortified, but we don't have lust. We get the boss to 66% before the first magma shield, and no one dies during it. So far, so good. After the damage amp, the boss is at 48% with 1 minute and 16 seconds remaining. The next magma shield happens at 19.8% with 43 seconds remaining. The shaman dies, but still gets his item off. So does everyone else except for the DK who misses the boss with the circle. So we're still dealing with a 700k shield here with 33 seconds remaining. We don't lose anyone else, get through the shield, res the shaman, and have the damage amp going for us, which is enough to +2 the key with 8 seconds to spare. 35 score, only 27 score required to reach our goal. So let's do our own key now. A +19 Vortex Pinnacle. I proc my cheat on the first pull. I had bone shield charges, but wasn't stood in my D&D and didn't have a defensive running. I don't know, I might have gotten hit in the back a few times. Either way, tough luck. Thank you, cheat death. Hunter goes splat here, but we do make our way through this area slow and steady. First boss offers no problems either. It's fortified, so I wouldn't expect any issues here. We lose the hunter on the dragon right at the end here. They had a heal ready, but didn't use it. I couldn't see how much longer the dot would have persisted though, so maybe it was futile anyway. One of the palace uses a B-res to get them back up, and I get that you'd use a B-res to keep the speed going sometimes, but now was not a good time to do so. I think we should have just used a normal res here. Either way, we push onwards to the second boss, where our red pal seems a bit indecisive about what updraft to use, ends up getting clipped by the wave and dies. We get them up with a B-res though, but then we lose our hunter. They step in updraft too early and get knocked around. Maybe they used disengage and died from being out of bounds or something. Either way, imagine if we had a B-res here that we didn't use before. I don't know the math, but I bet that standing still for a bit to let someone cast a normal res is less of a time loss than fighting the remaining 50% of this boss with only 2 DPS. But wait, there's more! With the next wave, the monk goes up too early and still gets clipped, so it's just the 3 of us. We don't lose anyone else and eventually get through this boss fight, but it took us 3 minutes and a half on Fortified Week. Oof. We were going at a slow and steady pace before, but now things are actually kind of tight. We really gotta go. The first couple of pulls in this last area go well, but then there's this last pack. On Fortified Bolstering, you want to use Lust here and focus the Calyphs that cost the AoEs. The Paladin decides to charge in by himself before I even pull. They don't die because they use Divine Shield for it for some reason, but I don't know what his plan was. But the monk does die because they're still in the triangle because they were casting their trinket. We B-res the monk and later on lose the red pal because they walked out of the triangle way too early. Thankfully, that's where the deaths on this pool end and we can eventually move on. We have just under 5 minutes to kill a set of orbs and the last boss on Fortified. So we should be fine, right? Right? Yes. The fight's flawless and pretty quick, so we time the key with just under 1 minute and 50 seconds to spare. It gives me 22 score, which is 5 off from our goal. Well, I hopped into an Ultimate 18 next. The DH got chomped and also takes a chain lightning hit because it wasn't kicked and bounced to them. The rest of this first area and the first boss go fine though. Then in this big pull right at the very end, the DH uses I-beam while standing in a swirly. I bet a lot of DH mains know that feel all too well. One pull later, a swirly of another kind snipes both the rogue and the DH. Life as a melee DPS, I do not envy it. Everyone swirled out once we hop into the second boss fight though. We're not faced with any difficulties here. DK on this fight feels so comfy because you can always just grab the caster ad, and the tank damage on this boss isn't particularly problematic. Blood Boil is generally enough to establish aggro on the ads, and you have a kick plus an AoE stop to deal with spell costs. Super chill. Next up, fortified bolstering custodians. Do we manage? Yes, actually, we do fine. I'm able to stay in at the beginning, establish aggro, and then kite. The evoker then grabs me and takes me with them to avoid these enemies more, which is great. Super cleanly done. Thank you, dragon. Fortified Talandris is not that scary compared to tyrannical weeks, so we get through this fight pretty quickly and easily. Then, swirlies come back to haunt us. The DH gets cursed, turned into stone, and explodes. Rip. Next pull, we again fail to stop the curse from going through. DH gets stoned again and dies. Again, they get B-resed and we get through the rest of this pull though. Emberon and the first bit of trash after him do not pose a problem, but we do lose the rogue here because I turned the mobs a bit, which made it so the cleave hit both the rogue as well as the demon hunter. Rogue returns swiftly though, and the rest of the pull goes fine. The rest of this last area goes by without a hitch, and we find ourselves in front of the last boss with 8 minutes remaining. It's rather anticlimactic, but this is just a clean fight. We don't lose anyone, and we kill the boss with more than 5 minutes remaining on the clock. This gives us 15 score, which brings us to 2,510. We also get gloves on the hero track, which is actually still an upgrade, so I'll gladly take that as well. Now, before we wrap things up, we do still have a vault opening. I'm happy to announce that I got some legs on the myth track, which is a nice upgrade from the champion legs I had before. I turned this into tier, of course, and can now bench this character while the others will continue to work their way up. And there we have it, our first tank to reach the goal of 2.5k rating. 4 more to go, and 3 of those are, in my opinion, set up well to make some huge gains. It's only the monk that I'm a bit worried about, but I'll make an effort to get that sorted still. That's gonna do it for me today. Stay tuned for more episodes, and if you want, like this video and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. With all of that said, I'm out. Cheers.